It's not about Dallas, it's about the kingdom. Every seed don't grow in every environment, man.
Every seed doesn't grow in every environment.
That's right. You have to be in a certain region, a certain place at a certain time. But you're a kingdom seed. Every word that Jesus said, that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. God sees, God speaks, and then he sees what he said was good. So he spoke and blew into you, bro, his nature. The ability to create, to speak into things from manifest because you are spirit. You came out of him, bro. His qualities. I just heard it again. Image is God's nature, it's God's characteristics and God's qualities. So when you're placed in a particular region of the world, in a city, you're now a spiritual component walking as God because his spirit lives on the inside of you to do what he wants. God only powers. It's one thing for a thing to be in a thing, but it ain't been powered up.
Okay.
But God only powers those who understand where the power came from and understand the person who gave them the power, what they really supposed to do. Bro, true glory can only happen when you're functioning in the place and the capacity that you're supposed to be. Mad people are talking glory from here, but they ain't producing nothing. They ain't really, because it comes from the inside out. They say the future that we want future, right? We always talk about the future, but we put the things further in the future than they belong because we refuse to sit down, settle down, and allow God to stir up the gift that is on the inside. So the future that you are supposed to be having is the future that you fail to release. As soon as you start to release the ideas that God has impregnated you with, then your future starts to kick. But there's still a timeline and a process to prepare to make sure that when you're out there, you won't make a mockery by compromising what God has placed in you. You ever see the person go through something and they get happy and they just running? Well, you running because you didn't get all the instructions. You got to hit a whole. You got to hit a whole matter. Just don't run with a piece of the matter. You got to let that thing be in here. So when things come that want to make you compromise and side with it instead of obeying God, you won't. You'll be so fixated, bro. That's why Jesus said, "Yo, Peter." He said, "Yo, you trying to tell me I'm not supposed to die? So let me rebuke you." Satan, the Lord rebuke you, for you savor the things of man and not the things of God. Because he was trying to tell him you ain't going to die. Jesus came to die.
The very purpose.
So this is how prepared we have to be when the things of the world, when the major pieces of the world, when the systems, the principalities, the powers, the rulers of the darkness, when they talking junk and they saying what they saying, you're so fixated on what you're daggone called to do, you won't chide with them, bro. You won't side with them. You won't even consider what they're saying. And you go back to God to get, Lord, this is what they're saying. But what do you say? So forget what Dallas is saying in a sense. Forget what Fort Worth is saying. Forget what Maryland has said. Forget what New York is saying. It's not, what is God saying? Because that's the only thing that matters, bro.
Let me ask you this. What God is saying, because you're thinking macro, not micro. You're thinking kingdom.
Kingdom, bro.
Macro is kingdom, which is a whole different economy, which is a theocracy. We live in a democracy, which would be you and I together in Dallas in this dimension called time. Because God doesn't operate in time. So you're challenging me in a good way. I won't even say to think differently, but to merge the two kingdoms, if you will. Because I do believe there is significance in time in this dimension, because you're a biblicist. So you're a student of the Bible. The book of Acts is all about the missionary journeys and them moving around.
Yep.
And God is about movement. Even in the Old Testament, men moved. I never wanted to move from Maryland. I had no reason to, really. And I'm a hardcore East Coast kid. I love Jordans. I love streetwear. Love jazz. You know, I love hip hop, old school hip hop. Anything East Coast, I love museums. I've been all the museums in New York, operas, ballets, all above East Coast. That's like America's Europe.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I don't see the point of moving. But now I'm kind of not. It's being revealed day by day. Me being in Dallas, me being here, but conversations like this is a big reason me being here. Brothers like you, because in Maryland, I kind of peaked on this level.
Mm-hmm.
And my reason for my podcast is to encourage not just creatives and musicians to expand their thinking, but everyone, right? And so to expand my thinking as a musician, Tim Green is one of my best friends in the world. I could get private lessons from Warren Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
I could go to Peabody if I want to, have my homies teach there. But as far as this type of exchange, I peaked in Maryland, you know, and so God wanted me to be around Mike Bethany, Amos, and so many other people, Roy Cottons and the Myron Butlers and many other people. I don't want to start naming names to forget anybody because I've had so many people impart and still imparting into me since I've been here. Is mind blowing, but that's the main, well, one of the main reasons of my podcast is basically to not just for myself, but the people that I'm interviewing. As we talked about earlier, the well that they play from. So when you hear someone like yourself, so this is Quennel. He's a master musician. But beyond the music, the well you play from, in your upbringing, your history, and yes, musical influences, but also, I was very impressed about you from your walk with God and how serious your walk with God is. And every time we talk, bro, it's a prophetic encounter. So I make these jokes, but I'm being very serious. You're like a pastor, but you know what I realized? All of my close friends are my mentors in a way.
Mm. Interesting.
So in this time of my life, Amos is one of my closest friends in the world. Justin Savage is one of my closest friends. And I could go on Mike Reed, Tim Green. And in many ways, I hear them. If I'm making a decision, if I'm making a musical decision, if I'm making a financial decision, if I'm making any decision, I hear Amos, or I hear Mike, or I hear Justin, or I hear Quennel, or I hear Roy.
Mm-hmm.
And, bro, I thank God for that. But a lot of people don't know you all on that level. So this is an opportunity. And if you don't mind, whatever you feel led to share, your backdrop. I don't know if people know you live in Dallas area, and I don't know if people even really know I live here. Some people still know I live here. I moved here about a year, 3-4 months ago. You moved back here. How many years ago now? Because you moved
2017. It's my second stint in Texas.
So can you give people a Cliff Note version of yourself being from Long Island? Meeting your wife, coming here. Did you go back to New York, or did you go back to Alaska and New York?
I went to New
Can
York.
you just give a Cliff Note version of that, please?
I really appreciate it, man. I don't take anything lightly or take anything for granted when it comes to relationships. My relationships with people, I know of a lot of people, but everybody doesn't necessarily connect in the same way. So I've always been looking for God relationships because I think there came to a point to where I just wanted the truth about who I am, the truth about where I'm going, the truth about where I'm supposed to be. I think this is a great moment to say this. So I just want to say thank you. I'm saying all that to say thank you, man, for the kind words and for the opportunity and to be the first one. First one. And a man told a story, and the story was a well-to-do guy has money, has houses, has cars, has popularity, has fame, has a level of celebrity. And one day he's driving and he's in a place, he's in a space, a headspace, an emotional space, a spiritual space, and he's searching.
Okay.
And so he begins to drive his nice car on this road, and he's just driving all by himself. He goes from driving on the road to driving on a dirt road. The dirt road then turns into like a forest, and he continues to drive. He doesn't know where he's going. There is no GPS. There's nothing. He's just driving. This well-to-do guy that has money, has a car, has all his relationships, everybody. But he's searching. Accomplishments and everything. But he's searching. Goes through the forest. Through the forest, he comes to an army base that is hidden deep in the forest. And as he gets to the forest, the guy's on the wall, and the gates begin to open. They have their guns pointed at the man in his car. And one of the soldiers comes out and says, "Stop," with the gun in his face. And he asks him, "Who are you? Where are you going? And what are you going to do when you get there?" And the man, something in him seems to be awakened or ignited, that he begins to ask the soldier questions with the people with the guns on the wall and the guy with the gun in his face. Because you're not supposed to be in that area. But the guy says, "What made you get into this? How long have you been working here? Blah, 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 blah." Then he asked him a question. He asked the soldier, he said, "How much money do they pay you to do this?" And so the man tells you. Now remember, he's well-to-do. He says, "I'll pay you quadruple what they pay you to be with me and remind me of the first three things that you said to me when you first asked me and pointed the gun in my face. I'll pay you for the rest of my days to ask me, who am I, where am I going, and what am I going to do when I get there?"
Say it one more time.
Who am I, where am I going, and what am I going to do when I get there?
Okay.
And that story encompasses, since I was a teenager, what I've been trying to figure out. Who am I, where am I going, and what am I going to do when I get there? I've been in pursuit of that since a teenager. So, Long Island, lost my father at a young age, never desired to play the organ, never desired to play the
Say that
piano.
again?
I lost my father at a young age, 8.
Wow.
My father passed away. He passed away November 14th. My birthday was November 28th. My father literally died 2 days. I think it's 2 or 3 days. I have his birth certificate that I found a couple of years ago. My mother gave it to me. My father literally died 2 weeks before my 9th birthday. And so I played drums, but never had a desire to play organ, ever. Played no keyboard. I wanted to be a professional drummer. And so, of course, when you lose your hero, you begin to experience life in a whole nother way. And so I lost my hero, became depressed, low self-esteem, insecurities, all of the stuff. So I thought that with my dad, or in my father, he had to teach me the truth about my identity and who I really was. So I felt at that time that my identity and who I was died with him. So I was on a journey to figure out who I am. And so learned how to play the keyboard at 12 and play the organ. The church doesn't have a musician, and I'm fighting with the bishop. He's telling me, "You're going to learn how to play." So I said, okay. Take a couple of lessons from a guy, Dr. Renix Graham from California. Taught me a couple of notes.
How old were you?
I was like 12.
12.
Mm-hmm.
Your first formal lesson at 12?
Mm-hmm. And he didn't teach me like chord charts or sheet music. He just said from left to right, this C, E, G with a C in the bass. And he told me how to play God Has Smiled on Me. And I think another one of the songs he
So
told me.
you never played anything on piano till 12?
To 12, man.
Interesting, because a lot of my friends that have your understanding of the piano started a little earlier than 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a lot of the guys that I know, they started early as well. Some of them even took classical.
Because a lot of people don't realize music, I always say music years are like into dog years. So 12 is actually kind of late.
It's very late.
Now you got to think about the average person goes to college after high school and kind of start their career.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend of mine, she was studying medicine at Howard. She was going to be a doctor. And one time we had a debate. She said, "I've been way more hours to do what I do than what you do." because it's said to be an expert or something takes 10,000 hours. I said,
Yes.
you absolutely have not.
Hmm.
You started Howard University 18, 19.
Hmm.
I was making $75 a week playing drums at 7 years old with my dad. My hours started earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm surprised, as well as you play, that you started at 12. To the average, they're like, man, that's young. But a lot of people don't realize. I met Mike Reed when he was 12 and took him to Switzerland when he was 13. And he was killing at 13.
Mm.
Same thing with Devin Webster. So I grew up in Baltimore with a bunch of savants. They were out playing men at 13, 12. So
I believe that.
no idea. I probably almost thought you had that same story. I just assumed you had that same.
Not even close, bro. Not even close.
So you was playing like Mary Had a Little Lamb, those basic chords at 12?
Playing chords. I know.
Really?
Now I know their seventh chords, G7 chord, third inversion. Now I know that stuff because I went to school eventually for college, but I didn't know what I was playing, man. I didn't know.
Now, high school, did you go to like a performing arts school
Nope.
in Long Island?
Nope, no performance art schools. We just churched a lot, and the Lord really was doing something. I think the first thing that he was doing, he had me on a path to find truth, because I think that there are levels and dimensions and degrees to truth. Truth is not just you reach one place and then you find it all. Woo, wait.
I believe that's what harmony is.
Man, same, bro. You never stop learning. You never stop expanding. You
Harmony
never
is
stop.
truth, yeah.
It's true. So I believe that it's a journey to find truth. Just I believe it's a journey to find faith. Grandma's faith.
I'm a process theologian.
Okay, you are, bro. Yes.
So
you are.
even me, I'm still changing and evolving. It's funny. My parents are both ministers. We have this. I'll say debate. Let's just say debate. Healthy debate. But they don't believe in the idea of backsliding. While I do. I was really into working out. Really into fitness. Right. Fall off the wagon, get back on it. Semantics, if you call it, that's backsliding. So I'm a process theologian all day. I believe faith is a journey. That's just me, but I'm not trying to proselytize you or anyone else that's listening, tune in. If you have your idea of what faith is, that's okay. But I'm all day a process theologian, bro. And I feel like I'm a process musician. On the way here, randomly, I was looking at something on Instagram with Antonio Sanchez, and he was paying homage to Michael Brecker. And I never knew he recorded with him, and John Petrucci's on bass, and there's somebody recording to a click and stuff. And I'm like, even on my way here, I'm still, it's a journey. My musical journey is ever evolving to jazz and listen to Antonio Sanchez and listen to Miguel Zenon, all the greats. So for me, life is a journey.
Life is a journey.
And I've committed to being a life learner. The minute I'm not learning, the minute I'm not practicing, the minute I'm not checking out records, the minute I'm, I don't want to explore, I don't want to play music anymore, I'm done.
Yep.
So yes, faith, to your point, bro, faith is a journey.
It's a journey.
Like harmony.
Yes.
I mean,
Everything is a journey.
even fashion,
Relationships are a journey.
relationships, everything.
Everything. And everything is always evolving, and everything is always moving to another place. But one thing that can be said, that even with these things, especially with things that evolve, is there's nothing new under the sun. So Ecclesiastes would say it like this: that which has been will be again.
Can I pause real quick?
Sure.
There's nothing new under the sun. The redemptive value, I believe, that will come from this is people knowing. And when you know, you have history. And when you have history, you have insight. And I'm going to tell you why. I've been blessed to record. I've recorded a lot the last week. And when I record, I reference a Joe Smith or Melvin Davis. This track I did yesterday. Another track I did a couple of days ago, Keith Taylor, certain type of track. Now I'm not Keith Taylor, I'm not Melvin Lee Davis, but there's nothing new under the sun. And when musicians and creatives do their homework in their area of expertise, they start to realize if you're a painter, well, they use this brush or they had this backdrop before. Or if you're doing this type of track, you may want to check out some New Jack Swing or some Sonny Stitt. And I think it makes you a way better musician, a way more informed. To your point, there's nothing new under the sun. Research and get as much information as you can. This is informative. You're a friend of mine. I'm learning sitting right beside you a lot about you.
And same. And,
You see what I'm saying?
Yep. And
So that's really the impetus of this also. There's nothing new under the sun. Get the information, get the history, get the backdrop. It's gonna make you stronger. Continue going. I just want.
Yep. Oh no, that's good, man. So there's nothing new under the sun. That which will be again. That which will be again has already been. There's innovation to be able to innovate. There's ingenuity. There's the ability to take something and to build upon it, new shapes, new structures of it. But it always becomes dangerous with life, with anything that you're doing, with anything that's evolving when it gets too far away from the foundation.
That's a story for another day. Because right now I don't know what gospel is. And it's funny you say that. Even the foundation of jazz. I watched the Daryl Jones interview, and he was talking about how Branford Marsalis recommended him to the Sting gig. But during that time in the '90s in jazz, it was a lot of dialogue going around of not using electric instruments in jazz. And I think sometimes in that argument, Wynton Marsalis is a little bit misunderstood.
Okay.
Because he's like, well, what is jazz? I mean, what is it? And I think we've come to that place where they were late 80s, 90s with jazz. I think we're coming in now in gospel. What is gospel? What is jazz? I mean, you get too far away.
Yep.
You know, like, what is it?
When we look at gospel music, or even when we look at the issues of jazz and where it came from, or music in general, where did that come from? What's the true meaning of pop? I didn't know that pop means popular. Did you?
I did.
And the things that go with that, and the political things, the political agendas, and it's most people don't know the history of where music came from, why, what it does, where it leaves people. So I think gospel music has always been leading to this time. And I think there's been changes.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. Meaning there was things that was happening that people just wasn't paying attention to. That's just why you ask most people in the world, a scientist said, or a doctor said in the 1970s, he said, most people don't think. He said, 2% of the world thinks. He said, 3% of the world think they're thinking. 95% don't think at all.
Say it again, please.
This doctor said 2% of the world is really thinking. They have
thinks
three think they're thinking. And 95% of the world doesn't think at all. That was the 70s. But it took somebody to see things and have something stirred up in him to begin to measure what was already taking place that nobody had measured and really looked at.
But Thomas Dorsey and all them, and
before Thomas Dorsey.
Thomas
Dorsey is a person that's recognized as the founder, as the originator, but he got it from somewhere, possibly a person that didn't have the same fame, celebrity, opportunities, and doors to
because
be
gospel is today's fusion.
Pretty much so. Yes, I agree.
It's today's fusion. But you said it was on a trajectory of that before Thomas Dorsey, so we can't be that surprised.
Yep.
That we're here now.
And we can't keep on. We're not properly assessing things. We're poking, but we really don't know the root of certain things that we're seeing and why certain things are breaking down and why certain things are. We got to really, really take time to come together. The Bible says, come, let us reason together. We got certain people reasoning together, but leaving certain people out, thinking that they don't have anything valid to say. That's dangerous.
Well, because I'm going to pause here because I still want to know more about you, but I'm going to say this.
I'm sorry. I don't want to got totally away from the first.
No, because we are masters in gospel music as it is with us. I've been playing it for decades, and it's archived. is documented. It's called a record. It's a documented record,
Sure.
and I'm on records. So yes,
Sure.
I consider myself a master of gospel. But having said that, it is a business and it's an industry. And I think when you say come let us reason together, there is divide when it comes to gospel because you have this. I think the divide is this. And then we're going to go back to you because
Got you, bro. Got you.
a lot of people don't know you think like this. And I still want to hear about high school and your musical journey as a pianist and also organist. You're a bad organist too. I think a lot of people know you as a pianist, but you're a bad organist. But to gospel, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep it moving. It's a music industry fighting and battling with the good news.
That's good.
So we have the Stellars and Dove Awards and Grammys and the gatekeepers here. This is industry, record labels, publishing. Then you have good news. I'm going to minister at this church or wherever, and I have this ministry date. And this message is going to save someone's life. This assignment, this spiritual assignment. And you have these two worlds because you could be you got to realize now, we live in a time now, what is sanctification or what is it to be a Christian? You know,
Sure.
everyone's, that's debate. A lot of my friends that are PhDs from seminary, Thomas Adam Johnson, there's no such thing as hell. Everybody's going to heaven.
Yes. Inclusion.
Gospel of inclusion is way more common than people realize.
Yes.
Well, same gender loving. Clergy is different there. Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the Godhead, the Trinity. Well, are we worshiping the right day? 7-day Adventists. Do you have apostolic Adventists then?
Yep.
And I could go on even of what a Christian is in 2023. Then by the time you add music and accompany that by music, then you add the music industry.
It's a lot, man.
Woo!
It's a lot.
Huh.
It's a lot.
And you say, well, I play gospel. What in the world does that mean? You play gospel music in the industry? Are you a Christian? What does it mean to be a Christian? Are you worshiping the right day? But I think we're dealing with that now too, because at the end of the day, everything in America, capitalism seeps into everything. So you play, if you are doing trap, it's the club and the streets. But for the most part, Christian music is going to be played in churches.
That's right.
Well, church is not what it was when you and I were kids.
No,
I saw a kid, 13 years old, watch night, had a bass. When I was a kid, that was very common. Someone playing bass, someone playing keys. 20 kids waiting to play an instrument. I haven't seen that in over 20 years.
Yeah, me too.
So even what church is and money coming to that and that being a for-profit institution and
That's real, bro.
woo, do you add gospel music with all of these outside sources? And you have to filter and bring all that together in different races and generations. I'm kind of curious what gospel or even the church is going to be in 5 years. But back to you. So I don't know who has or hasn't heard this cat play. It's funny because you have a lot of influences. Like you wouldn't consider yourself like a jazz cat, but I hear jazz. I of course I hear gospel. You started at 12, which is shocking. Quickly, if you can, give me that high school evolution of you becoming a musician and a pianist. Like what records were you checking out? Were you playing with people? Like was there an organist that everyone knows in New York that we don't know about that all you guys were checking out? Like I found about Carlton Pope from Stephen Ford like years ago.
Definitely.
In Jersey. Well, in Baltimore we didn't know Carlton Pope.
Yeah.
So but my homies up north, that's the guy. The guy for us in Baltimore would be like an Eric Scott or Buddy Lakins that the world would know. Or my favorite in churches will always be Andrew Best. He's the baddest organist I've ever heard in my life.
Andrew Best. The Best Brothers. His brother played the drums.
He has a brother play drums in New York, upstate New York.
Oh, my gosh, yes. I seen him when I was a kid. I had never seen anything like that.
I've never seen nothing like till this day.
Alvin West is a guy that I seen. I didn't study him, but I did hear him. He's
New York.
Jesus Lord, bro.
Alvin West.
Alvin West, beast.
Heard him in
There's some
when he was in
secular
high
people
school.
and there's some church cats who would know about him. Definitely. I mean, even L.A. because he was out there doing his. I think he was out there doing
Alvin
something.
West, piano or organ guy.
Both. Since
I never heard him
unbelievable.
before.
I got to hear something of him, like, an amazing cat. He was definitely one of the monsters of New York. Then you have a guy that I used to hear that kind of opened me up to things that I never even thought was possible church-wise because his teacher listened to Art Tatum.
Now I hear Art in your playing.
And so Andre Owens, he was a young guy that was like doing scales at 13 and 14, clean as a whistle, bro. Clean as a whistle, bro. Like I don't know, he just had a discipline but it was different from, he played at church, but it was really jazz. His teacher was a jazz teacher. So that, and then going to the grocery store and listening to 88.3. It was a jazz station in New York. So
8.3.
my mother would go into the grocery store in New York called Pathmark, and I would sit and
It's a
sneak.
train, isn't it?
Huh?
Is the Pathmark a train or is it a Jersey train?
I think that's a Jersey train. But Pathmark was a grocery store in New
Really?
York.
See, you schooled me. Okay.
So I would stay in the car and listen to jazz for the 45 minutes that she'd be shopping and picking up the groceries for the house. And so I used to do that every now and then. But secular music was forbidden in the house. But I began to find out that whatever I listened to, I can do my own version to some degree. And so Byron Preston is another amazing
New York guy?
cat. New York guy.
Byron Preston. No,
Byron
you
Preston.
met all these guys.
Oh man, yeah, bro.
Okay.
And back then it wasn't social media, or you had to have tape recorders. It's either you went to the service to hear the person play, or you had a tape recorder and you would ask them, could you record them?
I think that's
Some
better.
people didn't do it.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Now it's information overload.
Yes.
And these young musicians have musician schizophrenia. And I did a gig with Braden Lacey, a couple other cats. We was backstage. A lot of musicians. We was backstage, and we was just talking. AJ played bass. We did a bass show, and they said, "Yeah, all these young cats, they killing, man. They, I said, "No, they're not." I have not heard of Braden Lacey or AJ Brown from a young guy. I said, when Mink Edition came out, we listened to Definition of a Band over and over. When Yellow Jackets came out, I could play that stuff on the piano right now, let alone the bass, because it's got. They say, I don't know how true this is, but neurologically, if you repeat something 7 times,
right.
then you have it. They say it's a magic number, but it's probably more or less depending on who you are and the way your prefrontal cortex and many other variables is. But anyway, my whole point is, we ate and drunk the water, and we just drunk that water. We just got it. Next thing you know, it's coming on your plane. They don't have that.
No.
It's Spotify, YouTube. Go to the church, play here, and that music schizophrenic. I don't hear that depth that you would get from a tape recorder that I had. I had to rewind Mark Walker 8,000 times to figure those chords out on a Keith Roscoe bass when I was 17.
Yes.
You don't have to do that anymore, and I'm glad I had to do that.
I am too.
To your point, one thing I kind of like about you, I asked you. I said, "Who do you listen to?" You said myself.
I did.
And one thing that I can say about you, a lot of people sound alike today, especially on piano, especially gospel cats. You can hear them like, you could be from Chicago, Memphis, Baltimore. I hear some Jason Mike Burrell, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not knocking it at all, because I believe they have such major contributions to gospel. If you're serious about gospel, you can't skip that.
That's right.
And if you do, you are missing something in your plan. Yeah. However, I can't say you sound like nobody. And you're one of the few cats I can say that. Because, a lot of times musicians, they could just regurgitate all these records they listen to and all that kind of stuff. And one thing I like about you, you're quick to say, I don't know what you're talking about now. It was something I think I asked you about. You was like, I never heard of, bro. I was like, Quennel, you're joking. It was like something very common. He was like, but I believe in everything in life there's a give and take. So
Yes.
I think that has worked in your advantage. Would you say so? Like,
definitely. Oh man, yeah. I would listen to tapes of myself. So when I learned about tape recorders, where I couldn't do things, I would listen to the mistakes that I would make in services and practicing. So when I played in C for like 2 years, that's the only key I can play in.
So you played in C for 2 years.
2 years. So
you
I
would record yourself.
I would record myself even in C, but when I met Andre and I got embarrassed because I wasn't able to play in A and in D, I wanted to learn how to play in all my keys so that those embarrassing moments would never happen.
Can you say that again? Because the transpose button is coming back.
Yes.
I thought it left.
It never left. It never.
Because, see, I'm from Baltimore, so if you ever hit a transpose button, you can't play in my city anymore. I know some vets and some bad cats.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against it. I don't knock it. You do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And because my dad and all his friends played organ and piano too. That's how I kind of got a little bit in piano. I'm not nowhere near you or Justin, somebody like that. But my father, I mean, if he even knew you knew where the transpose button was, you're not a musician. What are we talking about? Right. I don't care. And you could probably play better than him. He's like, not especially not piano. Like, this is a joke. And I'm seeing the transpose button come back.
Yes.
I didn't mean it disrupt you just then,
okay.
But I don't know. It's almost common sense because the piano it all works together, but people don't really see the importance of playing on all your keys, which I don't understand when it comes to the piano. I mean,
gotta know all your keys, man.
You have to know.
You gotta be able to play one song in multiple keys, in every key. And it takes discipline to really sit down. But that's still my regimen. I've been doing that for years.
I asked Shudra Mitchell, Shudra, New York.
Oh, yeah.
It's really St. Louis, but
great
yeah.
guy, yeah.
I said, Shudra, you still practice? He said, yeah. I said, it's always 2-4 hours a day. He said, man, even if I put something in every key, this was less than a year ago, I was just asking him. Because I like to talk to people like you and him, like masters, like, okay, like, how do y'all keep y'all maintenance? He's like, if I put something in every key.
That's it. It changes life, man. It really changes.
And you was playing
life.
the C.
I was playing C for 2 years.
Who was the person that embarrassed you again?
It was a preacher that came in.
Okay,
and he was preaching. And he preached in A, and I couldn't play in A. And that was my last time. I was so embarrassed. He brought his musician the next night and put me off the organ. And man, I was hurt. But it pushed me. But it was a journey. That push was a journey. That push wasn't, I was efficient in A in 1 month. No. It took years.
It took years
to get the fingering. The fingering is all different in every single key. Black keys and white keys are not the same. Don't let nobody lie to you and tell you that. So you have to practice till things become common and become second nature to you. Repetition breeds awareness.
Say it again.
Repetition breeds awareness.
Say la pause. This is Vada's cat. He gives me these nuggets, these keys. You give me these all the time. Repetition breeds
awareness.
Richard Bona said, I don't believe in improvisation. He said it's repetition.
Absolutely.
He said, I think he played with Michael Brecker. He said Michael Brecker would just practice all day. And it was someone else that Richard Bona told, but he said, oh man, they would just practice all day. Because I think sometimes someone sees a Quennel Gaskins and say he has the it thing, which doesn't make sense to me. Because another thing Richard Bona said, he said he worked for it. If they didn't, it wouldn't be fair. But I think sometimes people be like, oh man, he's gifted, he's talented. And my wife and I, we have this ongoing debate of having the it thing and working hard. I said, I don't really believe in talent. She said, you have it on base. I said, no, I don't. I work hard. I never forget, man. I was young. The whole Baltimore, Maryland knew Tim Green, but I didn't know him. At this time, we did Jonathan Nelson's first record with Mo Horns. And Tim was a child prodigy. And man, Tim was getting irate. He was getting mad. Everybody come and saying, you're a prodigy. Tim Green kept on saying, no, I'm not. I work really hard. Quennel has that thing. No, he doesn't. You worked hard.
Yeah,
you worked. Can you tell people?
It's weird.
You have to. You work, bro. You didn't just wake up playing like that.
But it's weird though. I don't know what to call it other than God. That's all I can say. Like, without God, you have nothing. All good and perfect gifts coming from Him.
So would you say God gave you that discipline?
God did something that is beyond my explanation. So, for instance,
but it's still discipline and hard work, though.
It's still discipline.
It is that. But my question to you is: that a supernatural gift? Do you think discipline?
I think to a certain extent, yes, because there's no way. I know guys who practice 10 hours a day. I know guys Oscar Peterson practiced 17 hours a day, 15, 16 hours a day, every day. Okay? That's how he became one of the world's greats, but he put the work in. I have never practiced 15 hours a day. I've never practiced 10 hours a day. I've never practiced 6 hours a day every day. If you play at church, you play. Then when you lock yourself in the church, like I did in my teenage years, I would dedicate my whole summer to God. And then throughout the year on vacation time, I would take a cab and go to church and lock myself in the church and get on the piano, get on the organ, worship, and then lay on the altar and wake up 7 o'clock and take a cab home. That was my discipline. I gave my ears to God. I gave my hands to God. And I said, God, you have to do something with this that you gave me because I don't know why I have it. That's why life is a journey. Where are you going? You know, who are you? Where are you going? And what are you going to do when you get there? It's still things that just have changed over the years. So I watch guys that chop. I mean, they specifically, this is Oleo. And I'm practice this. This is Dolphin Street. Am I saying?
On Green Dolphin.
Green Dolphin Street. I'm gonna practice this. This is Coltrane's tune. I'm gonna practice this, and I'm gonna get every single lick, or I'm gonna read it down and get it. I don't know.
Do you read music?
A little bit. I'm more of a chart person, chord chart person. That I'm actually playing classical music.
And you
like
never
Chopin.
went to school for music.
I went to school for music, but my motivation or my goal was to get a degree to open up a gospel school to teach gospel music. That is playing hymns. That's what I wanted to do. Teach people how to play hymns. Teach people how to be creative, because I was always creative. I remember when I learned my first Hezekiah Walker song. I didn't learn all the changes right, but nobody taught me how to learn the changes right. I always had my take on everything.
You still do, though.
And I still do.
You still do.
I'm going to switch
Quennel,
it,
flip
it,
you
take
still do.
it. But that was, so now, like even to your question, where's gospel music going? Is gospel music still gospel? It's a loaded question, but I would say with the revelation that God has given me that I'm working on is a genreless gospel. A gospel that's not based on genre.
So what is it based on, the message?
It's based on whatever God wants to use at that moment to touch somebody who that if you didn't have an open mind, their life wouldn't be touched through you. It's the ability, it's the adaptability to let God move
You
through
might have
you.
to call it something different then.
Genreless gospel? You think I have to call it something different?
No, you don't use gospel. You know, as Isaiah Sharkey said something the other day. I kind of like his term. He calls it healing music.
But that's what the gospel is, though. The gospel encompasses. It has its basics. Like, so for instance,
Like I feel like there's certain languages, like 251s is in gospel. Well, Black American music. There are certain movements.
it wasn't always in gospel. Back in the days, they didn't use no number system. You didn't put up 1-1. You didn't put up a 5. I don't remember that from none of the OGs that played. Byron Preston didn't use no number system to give the bass players. Matter of fact, in some places, you didn't have a bass player and a band like that.
Yeah, I mean, you got we're old enough. I remember bass players. You didn't see that in church. I mean, I grew up with my dad. Most of the churches I played with, my father had to bring my drum set. So in Baltimore, I remember when drums was not really a thing in church like that, and definitely not no bass guitar. And guitar still isn't. If you want to be real honest, most churches don't have good guitars.
True.
That's a story for a whole other day too. But I'm going back before Rudolph Stanfield and all of them. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I mean, it's just certain movements. It's gospel, and I love it though.
I do too.
Because I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of these young cats can't play gospel.
True.
They could play. If you say 2005 and up, they can do that.
Yeah, they can do that. But that old,
Pass me not. They're going to sound a little strange.
it's not going to be the traditional way that we
And
know
they can't play without sus 2 chords and some.
It's true. It's true.
So,
But it's still 1-6-2-5. There's still a basis of that. There's still this melting pot somehow of classical, whether you know to call it that. That's how I think of it. When I went to school, my teacher was like, well, do you know that sounds like Bud Powell? I didn't know who the world Bud Powell was. The teacher was naming people. Oh, that sounds like a WC move. Or Chopin would play that.
Chopin,
Your movements is like
Chopin.
I didn't know that what I was hearing and passing in stores but whatever I heard, cinematic strings. A$AP Ward said to me one day, it blew me away. He said, "You and Eddie Brown play an organ like a string section."
Kenny Sheldon does too.
Yes, he does. I didn't know what the world he was talking about, but
Kenny's a string composer.
oh, you could tell though.
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah,
He
you
doesn't
could
know because
tell.
his movements.
Yes, the movements.
Very few organists play like that.
That's
few.
what A$AP said to me. He said, "You need to be doing movie scores." I didn't know as a teenager coming up that all of these things was being
Can we
added
pause
to
there?
me. Yeah, sure.
We need them in the music industry.
We do.
Our fathers and our generals. I did a record with A$AP, and in 2 seconds, he said, "You a music director. You play bass like an MD." I said, "Really? This guy doesn't know me at all." Even though I'm MD, but it's like, I think we're missing that too. We're missing their voices. You know, like I have my biological father. We're close. He got me into music and many other things. I talk to my dad. But when I say father, I mean more like musical fathers. I think that
Sure.
we need, because they can see around the corner. A$AP has lived longer than us.
True.
The Bonds and the Stephen Fords. And I'm
Been
glad
more
we're doing
places
this
than-
because
yes.
hopefully, I do believe in this to mentor us through books. I believe this will be
I
that
agree.
for some people. And not just, it's not an age thing. You know, people older than us maybe, you know, or even younger, or even our age, our peers. But we need more of those moments, though.
No.
They can see us better than we can see ourselves, if we're going to be totally honest.
It's mankind,
One
and we
race.
all need one another. So here goes the duality of this one thing. They said friendship, the sign for friendship globally, universally, is hand in hand. That was amazing to me. That really blessed
Yes,
me.
sir.
But sometimes I think that the thing that we miss in those fathers and the things that's needed is God has made it, and it's very apparent to me, even when I was a teenager, in my early 20s, God showed me, he said, "I've called the old because they're wise and they know the way. But I've called the youth because they're strong."
He calls
So-
the young for their strength.
So it's lopsided. You got a whole bunch of strength with no wisdom and don't know no way. But then you got the wise that have the information and they're thinking about yesteryears and they're kind of intimidated. So they hold what they're saying or they're trying to say what they're saying without understanding that you have to have, okay, you can't say, somebody said, I think it was an actor, he said, there's people trying to tell these young boys, especially African-American community, pull up your pants. But you didn't engage them first. You don't go up to nobody, a stranger that you don't know, and try to correct them before you engage them. You engage them first. And then you have an opportunity to say something about something else. But some of the old guys, they're speaking from their time and how they were spoken to and trying to come into a generation that don't understand that talking to.
And I hope we can fix this, because I don't want to be the last generation where I'm not around and you see Caden, my son,
Yep.
and he doesn't listen to you.
Yep.
My son should listen to you and Uncle Roy, Uncle Justin, and my daughter. This lady listen to me.
That's good.
You see?
That's the school.
Yeah.
That's the school.
My daughter's about to get married. I want all y'all to vet the cat. It ain't just me. I believe in the village.
Yes,
And we have to come back to community, because that's missing.
we do.
And then I feel like it's reflecting in the arts and many other areas
Yes.
in our community, because, okay, well, the home. See, Jews, they understand family. The oldest book in the Bible is not Genesis, it's Job.
Yes.
It was the family before the tabernacle, before the temple, before all this stuff. It's family, right?
Yep.
So we're like, man, I got to get this money, man. My kids got to be straight. They got to go to college. Well, when I used to work out, and people from Baltimore understand this, Pikesville is a Jewish neighborhood. While I worked out in the gym in Pikesville, you had people there was a billionaire, millionaires. I mean, money, man, right? So their mind says nothing like ours. So we're like, man, God got to bless me, man. I got to pay for my children college, debt free, and pay my house off, and we'd be good.
Yeah.
They're not thinking like that.
No, not at all.
They actually think like the Bible, our children's children. So then that $10K a month, $100,000 a year is nothing.
That's right. It's already taken care of.
I'm so slow. I'm so naive. I did not even know you can make $1 million a year working at a hospital. I'm in the sauna.
yes.
My homeboy is like, "Do you know what that is?" Like, "No. You know how much he's worth?" And I kind of notice when I'm walking around the gym, everyone acquiesces to my homie, and they're like, "He knows this person." Another person in the gym has like a Picasso, something crazy. I'm talking about money, man. They're not thinking like us. And if we get back to family, I believe, and community, it's going to reflect in music and musicians. And you can tell a boy lift up his pants. Or when an ASAP tells you, "Man, you are playing orchestra," immediately it changes the trajectory of your life. And then you're taking courses. You shift.
Absolutely.
And we need that in the community.
We do.
We need our father. We need our biological fathers. We need our spiritual fathers. We need our shepherds. I could tell most musicians never had a pastor or a shepherd. Now, you've had a boss.
Yeah.
You never had that shepherd in your life. You could just tell by the
Characteristics, man, the qualities.
You could tell. You need.
Comes out.
We don't need any more professional pastors.
Yep.
Especially not in the black community. Especially not in the black community.
Yeah.
Shepherds. Woo.
Yeah, but you got to go back to the origin of everything, man. And the origin is God. So a man is a dangerous man when he thinks that what he's been given by God is only for him, to benefit him and to benefit his family only.
And a dangerous man is a man without God.
Without God. You need God in your life. And so what God has given me through this truth is he's given me experiences with insecurity and low self-esteem and pain and scars and wounds so that I can be able to identify with the people, to see them and to let them know that if I can make it through, you can make it through too. God can still use you in spite of your issues, in spite of the things that you didn't know, to guard your heart. Guard your heart.
Guard your heart.
With all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life.
Yeah.
Well, now I know how to help somebody else to know how to guard their heart. I'm able to teach them.
Guard your. This is a revelation to me, because I've been eating unhealthy, haven't been working out. Guard your heart.
Guard your heart. Mm-hmm.
Especially black men.
Yes.
These arteries, not going to the gym, not working out. Heart, as Miles Monroe said, anthropomorphic for the subconscious mind.
Yes.
I believe also your actual heart.
Yes.
Because if you're the baddest cat, you're getting your foot cut off, you can't make it to the gig, you're in the hospital, and then your children, your wife are worried. The heart is a very powerful, it's cardiovascular. I believe it's twofold. I'm going to wrap this up. Now, this is what I got from you. You don't know how to take notes when we talk sometimes. Every seed doesn't grow in every environment.
Yes.
You said that to me about moving to Dallas. You said this to me, not about the music, but it's about the word. I got that from you. In your own way, you said one of your gifts is people.
Yes. Definitely.
That's powerful.
Yes.
Because
you too.
Yeah.
You got to. We all have an anointing to touch and impact people, to influence people. I was telling my nephew the other day, I said to him, I said, yo, don't ever get it twisted. And this is part of my journey for truth. So at the end of the day, there's so much to be able to be said about the teenage years, about my life and my 20s, my 30s, Alaska, my journey, my wife, how she died, how the Lord brought it back together, how I got divorced, and how I got all of these things. The loss of my son, everything. But at the end of the day, the Lord took me through to give me a love for people. Because it's one thing to live life and not understand that God's vision always incorporates generations of people. And it took a lifetime. I'm 40 now. They talk about a generation being 40. I'm moving into a whole nother generational aspect of my life, that where I see that God has brought me here to help to lead people to him.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be a shepherd, but don't come to me to be the end all, because I don't have it. I don't know how.
That shepherd leads you to the Father.
To the Father. So
Period.
everything we do musically, lead them to the Father. Everything we do family, lead them to the Father. Everything we do business, lead them to the Father. Everything that we do relationally, lead people to the Father. Don't you ever become so much of a counselor that you're now in the way of God. Don't become so much of an advisor that now you're in the way of God being God to the person. Don't be so spiritual to a person, wisdom to a person, to where your wisdom outmatches or is in comparison and competition with the wisdom of God. Let God be God and every man be a liar. This is the truth I'm continuing over. So who am I? Where am I going? And what am I called to do? Challenging, changing, charging one life at a time. My slogan is, love is my inspiration and love is my motivation for why I do what I do.
Say that one more time.
My mission statement is challenge, change, and charge one life at a time. And my slogan is, love is my inspiration and love is my motivation for why I do what I do.
And give one piece of advice to a young musician that aspires to do this professionally. What piece of advice would you give someone that you may have wished you have heard when you were younger? Let's end with that, please.
Sure. Well, first of all, keep God first. God is everything. Without him, you don't know what to do. How shall a young man cleanse his ways? By taking heed to the word of God. Okay. Got to know the principles of God. You got to make sure that you surround yourself with good people. Okay. You got to make sure that you're confident in what God has given you, but you have to study to show yourself approved. And in the area of life, in the area of relationship, in the area of family, in the area of your particular areas of gifting, be careful that you don't put yourself in a place to where the instrument that you play is more important than the instrument that you are.
Say that one more time.
Don't put yourself in a place to where the instrument that you play is more important than the instrument that you are.
Selah.
So that's what I would say. Make sure you work on your instrument, who you are as a person, your commitment, your mind, your subconscious. 3 things that's needed in life, and I end with this because this has changed my life. The ability, 3 things we're gonna need in the world as the world is ever evolving and changing, is the ability to learn, the ability to unlearn, and the ability to relearn. 3 things you're gonna need in life: the ability to learn a thing, the ability to unlearn a thing or things, and the ability to relearn it the right way. Thank you for having me, bro. I love you too, man.
I appreciate you.